Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I am recipe testing another Pinterest recipe. This one is a stuffed butternut squash. I love testing new recipes, so if y'all have any recommendations, let me know down below. So for the ingredients, you are of course going to need a medium butternut squash, a 1/4 cup of dried cranberries, 2 to 3 garlic cloves. And then I had this pulled out, but I didn't end up using it. This is going to be if you are using the quinoa listed in the recipe. And then some nutritional yeast, 2 bags of frozen chopped spinach, 1 can of garbanzo beans or chickpeas. And then for seasonings, we are using salt, pepper, crushed red pepper flakes, although those are optional if you don't like anything spicy, oregano, and I am using brown rice instead of the quinoa because quinoa and me do not get along very well. So that's the ingredients, and the recipe will of course be linked down below for you guys. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is roast our butternut squash. So preheat your oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit or 220 degrees Celsius. And you're also going to line your baking sheet with some parchment paper. Cut your butternut squash down the middle. Be really careful. These can be pretty hard to cut. Make sure you have a good sharp knife. And if you need to, I know you can probably pop it in the microwave for a few minutes to soften it up a little bit. And then once it is cut in half, we are just going to scrape out all the seeds. Once all the seeds have been scraped out, we're going to put our butternut squash on our baking pan, cut side up, and then we're going to add some salt, pepper, and a little bit of oil. The oil is optional. You guys may or may not know I'm like 95% oil free, but if it's like a special occasion dinner or like a holiday meal, which I think this would be great for, I do use a little bit of oil, and I'm using avocado oil because it is great with high heat like the oven. So you're going to roast it in your oven for about 50 minutes, and this is what it looked like when it came out. It actually smelled so good. Alright, while the butternut squash is sitting off to the side and cooling down a little bit, we are going to get started on the filling. So in a pan, you can use a little bit of oil or water, and we're going to dump in both bags of the frozen spinach. So tip number 1 that I learned by testing out this recipe is this is just a little too much spinach in my opinion. I definitely think if you were going to try this recipe, cut the amount of spinach in half. So next time I make this, definitely only going to use 1 bag of spinach. I think it would turn out just a little bit better. Next, we're going to add in the garlic. I ended up doing about 3 cloves. And then we're going to add in our seasonings. And yes, half the salt is now on the stovetop. But we're adding salt, oregano, and the crushed red pepper flakes. So another thing here in the recipe, I would definitely add more seasonings for sure. I would maybe add in some black pepper, maybe some garlic powder, and I did not add enough salt. So if you are going to, again, try out this recipe, add in more seasoning. It just needed a little bit more flavor. And then we are going to throw in our can of chickpeas, give that a good stir. And then we're going to add in the brown rice or the quinoa if you're using quinoa. And then finally we're going to add in the dried cranberries. I kind of think we could bump up the cranberries to maybe half a cup as well, but it gave it a really good punch and a little bit of sweetness. It was really good in this recipe. Alright, now it's time to assemble our squashes. So we're actually going to scrape out some of the squash so that we have room for our filling. So as you can see, I just used a spoon and kind of went around the edges because you do want to leave a little bit of border of squash around because we're going to put this back in the oven and you don't want it to fall apart and lose its shape. And then you also don't want to scrape too much squash off the bottom and end up tearing a hole in it, because then you will lose some of your filling in the oven. So scrape out some of the squash to create a little boat, if you will, and then I kind of just broke it up with my spoon and gave it a good mix with the wooden spoon. Also, if you still have your oven on from when we roasted the squash, or if you need to turn it back on, for this part we are only going to do 375. So after everything is well mixed in, we are going to stuff our butternut squash with the filling. I added as much as I could and still ended up with so much filling left over. I did read on the blog post where I found this recipe that it's really good with sweet potato as well if you have leftovers. Then we are going to just top it with some nutritional yeast, and then I decided to add in some of these chickpea crumbs. These are like a gluten-free vegan alternative to breadcrumbs. They're really good and really crunchy, and so I added some of those on top. I would suggest if you add these to make sure you maybe do a little drizzle of oil. And then you are just going to put it back in the oven for only about 10 minutes or until the top is golden brown. And you guys, I feel so dumb because I set up this really cute picture opportunity for my thumbnail and also an Instagram photo, and I forgot to film a ending clip for you guys to show you what it looks like when it comes out of the oven. So here's some pictures. I'm so sorry about that, but it turned out really well. Again, I would just recommend cutting the spinach in half and adding more seasoning, and I think it would be perfect for a holiday dinner party. But yeah, that is it for this video. If you guys have any other recipes you want me to test out, leave them down below. I would love to do that for you guys. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new. Talk to you guys in the next video. Bye!